Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Is the main chamber able to hear? I've not been able to hear anything coming from the main chamber.
Yeah, nor have I. I'm not quite sure whether they can hear us or not, or they've got us muted, or they've got it muted.
Okay, that's good that you can hear me, but I've had two computers on trying to listen. One is my Luton computer and one is my Alpha Planning computer, but then no sound is coming from the chamber.
Same here. I can't hear anything. Absolutely nothing. Whether they only allow us to talk when the.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Who's speaking now?
Brilliant. Thank you.
And can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
Chair, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the system seems to be back on now. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Item 7.
So item 7, David, your update, please.
Okay, thank you very much. The purpose is just to update you on the progress in terms of the public inquiry, and especially in relation to some further information that was submitted prior to the public inquiry starting. The recommendation is that members note the report, and you'll see there's a second recommendation which was the same as in July when we last reported, which is if members do want to make individual comments, it must be in their individual capacity. If it's coming as councillors, then that actually needs a council resolution. So just to update you, back in July, we did report to you that the public inquiry was due to commence on the 27th of September, which it did, and also that an addendum to the environmental statement had been submitted, and that as officers and the consultant team, we would review that information. This report then tells you some of the information that came in from the applicant and the implications of that. It does not change the resolution that the council made on the December the 1st, 2021, which was that planning permission should be granted subject to various conditions and also to the variation to the legal agreement. However, one important factor is that in 2021, when it was reported to committee, we considered that elements of the application did conflict with parts of policy LLP 6B, that's the strategic airport policy, and LLP 38, which does cover noise pollution. That no longer is the case. When information was submitted in July this year, obviously there's been passage of time, more new generation aircraft have been introduced. The aircraft fleet mix predicted for the future is changing. And so we reporting to the public inquiry and to the inspectors no longer consider there to be a conflict with either policy LLP 6B or LLP 38. So just to really summarise, the assessment of the noise levels, both at daytime and nighttime, are now no longer considered to be perceptible. There is no increase above 1 dB associated with the proposal in the years going forward. The worst year predicted is 2023, and that no properties are subjected to an increase of greater than 1 decibel, whereas that wasn't the case in November 2021 when we reported it to committee. A 1 decibel increase is considered not to be material, not to be perceptible, and so the impact is not significant. In addition, there is an enhanced noise insulation scheme from the airport. So previously, the scheme covered £3,000 of insulation. Now it's up to £4,500 per dwelling, and the £100,000 annual cap that was in place has been removed. Also, any property that is subject to the increase in what's called the significantly observed adverse effect level in 2023, the worst case year, is now entitled to noise insulation for 5 years thereafter, even if they're no longer in that contour. So up to 2028, properties that are affected in the worst case year could still apply for noise insulation. So following the review of the addendum to the environmental statement, the evidence that's being presented to the public inquiry by the council now says the proposed development will not have significant adverse noise effects. The increase of less than 1 dB would be negligible. That's considered imperceptible. And with the implementation of the enhanced noise insulation scheme, the reduction in daytime and nighttime noise contours over time is now considered to comply with policy LLP 6B and policy LLP 38. And for your information in the report, it gives you a link to the specific Luton Airport public inquiry webpage, and in particular to the proofs of evidence. And just to update you on what's going to happen at the public inquiry in the next few weeks. Next week is the week where noise is discussed. So the airport have their consultant presenting, Ladakhan and CPRE will put their evidence, and the council will put its case. So that's noise next week. The week after is planning, and the final week, 3 weeks time, covers site visits and then final submissions by the airport, the third parties, what are called Rule 6 parties, and the council. That will take place on the 17th of November. So it is really an update, and it's for members to note, ideally. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, David. Any questions by members? Councillor Chowdhury.
First of all, I'd just like to declare that I'm a taxi driver, works at the airport, so I don't have any direct interest with the airport. But just a quick question is about when we expecting to end this inquiry, and when we have a final decision on airport.
Okay, the inquiry ends in 3 weeks. So after the 17th of November, the public inquiry will finish. I can't give a date as to when we're likely to get a decision. The Bristol Airport public inquiry finished in October 2021, and the decision came out in January 2022. So that was 3 months after the event. The other thing with this is that it is a call-in inquiry by the 2 Secretaries of State. So the Secretary of State for Communities, Local Government, Levelling Up, I get the name wrong now. Department for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities, DLUC. So Michael Gove, who actually did call it in, is back in position to determine it. And then the other department where the Secretary of State will need to determine it is the Department for Transport. So that could actually take longer. The Bristol Airport inquiry was not determined by Secretaries of State. It was determined by the planning inspectors themselves. But allow at least 3 months after the decision, after the inquiry ends.
Okay, no further questions, then we'll note the report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Now we'll go on to the agenda item 8. That's 1 to 11 Cumberland Street. We've dealt with this one in the past, and there are certain members who were not involved, were not present at the Cumberland Street one, can't participate tonight. So you've got an update, David, on
Yeah, 5, yeah.
Right, sorry.
Okay. Thanks, Chairman. This planning application seeks the development of the existing vacant site to provide 246 residential units, flexible commercial floor space at the ground floor level, and with associated landscaping, amenity space, car and cycle parking, refuse storage, access and works. As you said, members will recall that this item was brought before the Development Management Committee in June, but was deferred to satisfactorily resolve the fire safety issues, and also to undertake a site visit to consider the impact on St Mary's Church. The site visit has now been undertaken. There is no written update on this item, but members will have noted that a fire safety briefing note has been provided in relation to the application. This was requested at the September Development Management Committee, and also that the Health and Safety Executive joined the committee briefing session yesterday to advise on the Planning Gateway 1 process and to answer further questions on the issue of fire safety. As the application has previously been presented to members, I will not cover the whole application in its entirety, but instead focus on the issues that were raised at the June committee meeting. However, I will run through the slides again to refresh memories on the scheme currently for consideration. So, can I take you to slide 1? This is the application site outline in red and the applicant's ownership in blue. The site is located to the south of Cumberland Street and is adjacent to the Park Viaduct in the Castle Quarter area of the town centre. Slide 2. This is an aerial view of the site, demonstrating that the site has been cleared and also shows its relationship with the Park Viaduct. Slide 3. This shows the proposed site layout, demonstrating how the proposal activates the Cumberland Street frontage with a commercial unit located at number 2 at the corner of the site. Car parking is located wholly within the site and is indicated in pink. The next slide shows how the building will be laid out, with parking on the lower ground floor and first floor levels, and then the 3 main building elements arranged around a communal garden area at the second floor level. Slide 5. This just gives an indication of that communal garden area at the second floor level and the screen that would be provided to separate this feature from the Park Viaduct. The next 2 slides just show the means of escape from the upper floors of the proposed blocks, shown in green and then in red. This demonstrates the firefighting access routes to the upper floor levels, where it is noted that the firefighting shafts include a firefighting stair containing a rising main and separate firefighting lift. And then finally, we've just got some computer generated images of the proposal. The first is looking from across the Park Viaduct, looking towards the northeast. Secondly, this is the proposed commercial unit situated adjacent to the Park Viaduct underpass. The third one is as viewed from Cumberland Street, and the final one is an aerial view from across the Park Viaduct. Members will see from paragraph 43 of the report that the main planning considerations are the principle of development, climate change, design, and the impact on the character and appearance of the area, the impact on heritage assets in the vicinity of the site, the living environment for future occupiers, the impact upon neighbouring amenity, transport and parking implications, and issues relating to biodiversity, landscaping, affordable housing, planning obligations, economic development, and regeneration. So given the allocation of the site in the Castle Quarter area of the town centre, this specifically allows for residential development, and the previous granting of planning permission for a significant residential proposal on the site, it is considered that the principle of the residential-led development of the site is acceptable. Additionally, the current 39 to 61% ratio between smaller and larger units is considered to be a material improvement over the previous iteration of development on this site. And at this ratio, this mix of units is welcomed and is considered to make a direct contribution towards meeting the outstanding housing needs of Luton. With regard to climate change, the application has provided both an energy strategy which seeks to address climate change issues through utilising highly energy efficient building fabric, energy efficient lighting, services and equipment, passive design measures to reduce energy demand for heating, cooling, ventilation and lighting, all electric systems in consideration of the decarbonisation of the national grid, and an extent of photovoltaic panels at roof level. This strategy would reduce the carbon dioxide emissions of the proposal and is welcomed. Drawing the design issues together, it is evident that this would be a significant development that would have a notable impact on both the Cumberland Street and Park Street street scenes. However, the high quality design of the scheme would ensure that the proposal would indeed act as the desired gateway building into this emerging high density residential area of the Castle Quarter, and would provide attractive built form with a suitable active frontage to Cumberland Street to replace the vacant land and hoardings currently in situ. Additionally, it has previously been accepted that a high density residential proposal would have an acceptable impact on both the Cumberland Street and Park Street street scenes through the grant of permission for application reference 17/01764/FUL. And finally, the proposal would have a significant impact on the wider character and appearance of the area due to the height of the proposed development. However, for the reasons set out in the report about creating a high quality wayfinding landmark building, it is considered that the proposal would have a positive impact on the character and appearance of the area. In relation to the proposal, it is considered that the design is of an excellent standard and that the surrounding built form, emerging character and varied levels provide an appropriate context that justifies the design approach. The proposal has been taken through the independent design review panel process where no significant issues were raised in relation to the height, scale or mass. Rather, detailed issues were raised as set out in paragraph 55 of your report, and these matters were taken forward by the applicant in the current scheme, now for consideration before members. Finally, the proposal accords with the Luton Town Centre Master Plan framework, which includes this site as a potential location for a greater scale of building. And for these reasons, it is considered that the development would be consistent with the principles of high quality design found within policy LLP 25 of the local plan and section 12 of the National Planning Policy Framework. In accordance with the advice from the Council's Conservation Advisor, the proposal is considered to preserve the setting of the town centre conservation area, given the distance and the intervening built form. It is, however, recognised that the proposal would have an impact on the Grade 1 listed St Mary's Church. However, this impact is considered to result in less than substantial harm to the church, and the public benefits of the scheme have been demonstrated to outweigh this limited harm, particularly now an element of on-site affordable housing is to be provided. Members will recall from the site visit that the distance from the application site to the church, the intervening built form and how the context of the church is set from the existing development in close proximity to the church, rather than the built form further away. In this regard, and given the assessment set out above, the proposal is considered to comply with policy LLP 30 of the local plan. With regard to the environment created for future residents, the living environment to be created is considered to be excellent, providing for the necessary internal space standards, an excellent amount and variety of private amenity space, landscaped areas and public realm, an excellent light penetration and outlook for each unit. Specifically, each unit would have its own balcony in accordance with the council standards, and there would be an additional 868 square metres of communal amenity space, provided at the attractive communal courtyard at level 2 and a roof terrace at level 12. Given the provision of family-sized units within the development, the scheme also includes 190 square metres of dedicated children's play space divided between the communal areas, and which is designed to meet the needs of younger residents aged 0 to 11. This is a welcome feature of the current proposal and is a significant improvement over the previous application on the site, which did not provide for any play space. In relation to the impact on neighbouring amenity, it is not considered that the proposal would result in any significant harm to the amenities of adjoining occupiers or significantly adversely affect future development, and it is noted that no objections were received to the application. In terms of transport and parking issues, the Highway Authority has accepted the content of the Transport Assessment and Framework Travel Plan submitted with the application and has raised no concerns subject to conditions, which are included in Appendix A, and informatives to be added to any grant of planning permission. Accordingly, there is no objection to the proposal. Finally, the Highway Authority has requested a financial contribution of £48,650 towards improving sustainable travel infrastructure in the town. With such conditions and requirements to be captured through legal agreements, the proposal is considered to be acceptable in highway and transport terms, and also to comply with policies LLP 31 and 32 of the local plan. In relation to economic development and regeneration, the current proposal brings forward more units and therefore more potential residents than the previous permission on the site, as well as being able to provide for some developer contributions towards education, waste management and sustainable transport, and also a small level of on-site affordable housing. The greater number of residents would contribute to Luton Town Centre, providing greater footfall and commerce for the businesses in these areas. It's noted that the application site is one of a number of vacant and derelict sites around the town centre that detract from the visual amenity of the area and do not contribute to the economy of the town. The proposal is exactly the high quality of development that is required on these sites, providing a high percentage of housing that the council needs, providing a high quality of living environment whilst demonstrating an investment in the town and providing job opportunities both during construction and operation. The proposal will therefore constitute a significant benefit to the local economy at a time when there is a cost of living crisis in the economy. In terms of affordable housing and developer contributions, the viability process has found that the economics of the scheme are such that the policy compliant provision of affordable housing and the full amount of requested developer contributions would not be possible. However, through discussions with the applicant, a developer contribution of £153,000 and a provision of on-site affordable housing has been secured. A viability review mechanism is to be included as part of the Section 106 agreement to capture any improvements in viability before final occupation, with any future monies going towards affordable housing and then education. So in conclusion, the report demonstrates that the residential development of this site is acceptable in principle, being located within the Castle Quarter area of the town centre, where policy LLP3 applies, and which provides qualified support for high quality residential development. It would also make an important contribution to the regeneration of this part of the Castle Quarter, removing an unsightly piece of vacant land in its prominent location and providing job opportunities both during construction and operation of the building. The mix of units is considered to be acceptable and is an improvement on a previous permission on this site. In terms of design, the application proposals have developed over time, responding to both officer advice at the pre-application stage and also responding to comments from an independent design review panel. The proposal has demonstrated that it provides a high-quality design solution, provides specific justification for the taller tower element, and accordingly is considered to have an acceptable impact on the townscape and character and appearance of the area. In relation to the impact on both designated and non-designated heritage assets, the report has identified that there is some harm to these assets, but considers that the public benefits of the proposal outweigh this limited harm. Additionally, the report has demonstrated that the proposal would provide a suitable residential environment in terms of unit size and amenity space provision. It would not result in any significantly adverse impact on neighbouring amenity, and that the transport issues associated with the proposal are acceptable. Finally, the report details that issues relating to biodiversity, climate change, regeneration and planning obligations have all been suitably addressed. Overall, it is considered that the development comprises a sustainable and high quality form of development, and on that basis, it is recommended that plan permission is granted, subject to the conditions as set out in Appendix A and the completion of a Section 106 agreement as set out in the report. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Clive. Just a refresher, those members that cannot become involved or take part tonight are Councillors Franks and Campbell. Ali was also, but he's not here anyway. The members who cannot participate tonight in this agenda item, who were not present at the first application, cannot become involved tonight. That includes yourself, Councillor Campbell and Councillor Franks. Okay, any questions by members? No comments? Comments?
Thank you, Jeff. As you know, I asked for the deferment, and we did visit the site and looked at the St. Mary's Church. Even though, in practical terms, it's very difficult to see the impact of 21-storey, even though it is at a distance. So overall, it may not have a major impact. My other concern was amenities, as well as in terms of the site being, where it is. So, taking both into consideration, reluctantly, because I think it would be probably one of the first one in that part of the town to be of that height. I would support it, but I'm still concerned that amenity space for families in that area is very limited, and we have got a lot of large developments going on in that specific area. But I would support the recommendation.
Any other comments? There being no other comments, I think that we got an update only yesterday from the Health and Safety Executive. And also as regards building regulations, they would be involved and they would ensure that it complies with all current building regulations should planning permission be granted. So the recommendation is approval. I'll move approval. Is that seconded? So we go to the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Ahmed?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Hussain?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Kershid?
For.
Thank you. And Councillor Taylor?
4.
That's carried, Chair.
So that's carried. Planning permission has been granted. Subject to Section 106 agreements and any other building regulations. So we'll move now on to agenda item 9, which is land opposite Whitford House, Flowers Way, page 78. You again, Clive.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. This planning application seeks the development of the existing vacant site to provide 380 residential units, flexible commercial floor space at the ground floor level, and with associated landscaping and amenity space, car and cycle parking, refuse storage, access and works. Again, with this application, members will recall that this item was brought before the Development Management Committee in September, but was deferred to satisfactorily resolve the fire safety issues raised by the application. Again, there is no written update on this item, but members will have noted that a fire safety briefing note has been provided in relation to this application. This was requested at the September Development Management Committee meeting, and also that the Health and Safety Executive joined the committee briefing session yesterday to advise on the Planning Gateway 1 process and to answer further questions on the issue of fire safety. Again, as with Cumberland Street, as the application has previously been presented to members, I will not cover the whole application in its entirety, but focus on the issues raised at the September committee meeting. However, again, I will run through the slides again to refresh memories on the scheme currently for consideration. So slide 1, this is the application site outlined in red and the applicant's ownership in blue. The site is located to the south of Cumberland Street and is adjacent to the Castle Street roundabout in the Castle Quarter area of the town centre. The application site is an allocated housing site. This is an aerial view of the site, demonstrating that the site has been cleared and which also demonstrates its relationship with neighbouring land uses. Slide 3. This shows the proposed site layout, demonstrating how the proposal activates the Castle Street and Flowers Way frontages, with the commercial units located at numbers 2 at the corners of the blocks. Again, car parking is located wholly within the site and is indicated in pink. Slide 4 shows how the building would be laid out, with the parking on the lower ground and ground floor levels, and then the 3 main building elements arranged around amenity areas at the ground floor and the first floor levels. The next slide shows the communal garden areas at the ground floor, first floor, 6th floor and 18th floor levels. The remaining roof space would adopt biodiversity roofs, which are designed to enhance the ecological value of the development and contribute to the overall biodiversity of Luton. The next slide shows means of escape from the upper floors of the proposed blocks. And the next slide demonstrates the firefighting access routes in red. Again, where it's noted that the firefighting shafts include a firefighting stair containing a rising main and a separate firefighting lift. And finally, the next 4 slides show the applicant's computer-generated images of the proposal, Firstly, from across the park viaduct looking towards the northeast. Secondly, the proposed entrance lobby of Block A. Thirdly, the commercial unit at the corner of Block A. And lastly, an aerial view from across the A505 park viaduct. Members will see from paragraph 42 of the report that the main planning considerations are the principle of development, climate change, design, and the impact on the character and appearance of the area, the impact on heritage assets in the vicinity of the site, the living environment for future occupiers, the impact upon neighbouring amenity, transport and parking implications, and issues relating to biodiversity, landscaping, affordable housing and planning obligations, economic development and regeneration. Given that the site is an allocated housing site within the local plan and the previous granting of plan permission for a significant residential proposal on this site, it is considered that the principle of the residential-led development of the site is acceptable. It is also noted in the report that the previous permission has been implemented and remains extant, which has been confirmed by the granting of a lawful development certificate. Additionally, the current 40 to 60% ratio between smaller and larger units is considered to be a material improvement over the previous iteration of development on the site, and at this ratio, this mix of units is welcomed and is considered to make a direct contribution towards meeting the outstanding housing needs for Luton. With regard to climate change, the application has provided an energy strategy which seeks to address climate change issues through utilising highly energy efficient building fabric, energy efficient lighting, services and equipment, passive design measures to reduce energy demand for heating, cooling, ventilation and lighting, all electric systems in consideration of the decarbonisation of the national grid, an extent of photovoltaic panels at roof level and air source heat pumps to provide heating and cooling to the commercial and amenity areas. This strategy would reduce the carbon dioxide emissions of the proposal and is welcomed. Drawing the design issues together, it is evident that this would be a significant development that would have a notable impact on the Castle Street, Flowers Way and Park Street West street scenes. However, the high quality design of the scheme would ensure that the proposal would indeed act as a desired gateway building into this emerging high density residential area of the Castle Quarter and would provide attractive built form with a suitable active frontages to Castle Street, Flowers Way and Park Street West, which would replace the vacant land and holdings currently in situ. Additionally, it has previously been accepted that a high-density residential proposal would have an acceptable impact on the street scenes through the grant of permission for application reference 19/01597/MMAMD. And finally, the proposal would have a significant impact on the wider character and appearance of the area due to the height of the proposed development. However, for the reasons set out in the report about creating a high-quality wayfinding landmark building, it is considered that the proposal would have a positive impact on the character and appearance of the area. In relation to the proposal, it is considered that the design is of an excellent standard and that the surrounding built form, emerging character and varied levels provide an appropriate context that justifies the design approach. This proposal has also been taken through an independent design review panel process where no significant issues were raised in relation to height, scale or mass. Rather, detailed issues were raised as set out in paragraph 55 of your report, and these matters were taken forward by the applicant in the current scheme now for consideration by members. Finally, the proposal accords with the Luton Town Centre Master Plan framework, which includes this site as a potential location for a greater scale of building. For the reasons set out above, it is considered that the development would be consistent with the principles of high quality design found within policy LLP 25 of the local plan and section 12 of the National Planning Policy Framework. In accordance with the advice from the Council's Conservation Advisor, the proposal is considered to preserve the setting and significance of the Grade 1 listed St Mary's Church. Similarly, no adverse impact has been raised in relation to Grade 2 listed buildings in the vicinity of the application site or the non-designated heritage assets. In relation to the town centre conservation area, and the Council's Conservation Advisor considered there would be some harm to the conservation area, but that this harm would be less than substantial, and at the lower level of the less than substantial harm. Where there is harm to a heritage asset, a balancing exercise has to be undertaken to weigh the harm against the public benefits of the scheme. In this instance, the public benefits of the proposal have been demonstrated to outweigh this limited harm, particularly now an element of on-site affordable housing is to be provided. In this regard, and given the assessment set out above, the proposal is considered to comply with policy LLP 30 of the local plan. With regard to the environment created for future residents, the living environment to be created is considered to be excellent, providing for the necessary internal space standards, an excellent amount and variety of private amenity space, landscaped areas and areas of public realm, and also excellent light penetration and outlook for each unit. Specifically, each unit would have its own private balcony in accordance with the council standards, and there would be an additional 1,248 square metres of communal amenity space provided at the podium level between buildings A and B, a courtyard at first floor level, and roof terraces on the first, 6th and 18th floors. Given the provision of family-sized units within the development proposal, the scheme also includes 237 square metres of dedicated children's play space divided between the communal amenity areas, and which has been designed to meet the needs of younger residents aged 0 to 11. Again, this is a welcome feature of the current proposal and is a significant improvement over the previous application on the site, which did not provide for any play space. In relation to the impact on neighbouring amenity, it is not considered that the proposal would result in any significant material harm to the amenities of adjoining occupiers or significantly adversely impact upon existing neighbouring uses. In terms of transport and parking issues, the Highway Authority has accepted the content of the transport assessment and the framework travel plan submitted with the application, and has raised no concerns subject to conditions, which are included in Appendix A. Also informatives to be added to any grant of planning permission. Accordingly, there is no objection to the proposal. Finally, the Highway Authority has requested a financial contribution of £93,450 towards improving sustainable travel infrastructure in the town. With such conditions and requirements to be captured through legal agreements, the proposal is considered to be acceptable in highway and transport terms, and also to comply with policies LLP 31 and LLP 32 of the local plan. In relation to economic development and regeneration, the current proposal brings forward more units and therefore more potential residents than the previous permission on the site, as well as being able to provide for some developer contributions towards education, waste management and sustainable transport, and also a small level of on-site affordable housing. The greater number of residents would contribute to Luton Town Centre, providing greater footfall and commerce for businesses in these areas. And as with Cumberland Street, the application site is one of a number of vacant and derelict sites around the town centre that detract from the visual amenity of the area and do not contribute to the economy of the town. The proposal is exactly the high quality of development that is required on these sites, providing a high percentage of housing that the council needs, provides a high quality living environment whilst demonstrating an investment in the town centre and providing job opportunities both during construction and operation. The proposal would therefore constitute a significant benefit to the local economy at a time where there is a cost of living crisis in the economy. In terms of affordable housing and developer contributions, the viability process has found that the economics of the scheme are such that the policy compliant provision of affordable housing and the full amount of requested developer contributions would not be possible. However, through discussions with the applicant, a developer contribution of £211,104 and a provision of on-site affordable housing has been secured. A viability review mechanism is to be included as part of the Section 106 agreement to capture any improvements in viability before final occupation, with any future monies going towards affordable housing and then education. So, in conclusion, the report demonstrates that the residential development of this site is acceptable in principle, being located within the Castle Quarter area of the town centre, where policy LLP 3 applies, and which provides qualified support for high quality residential development. It would also make an important contribution to the regeneration of this part of the Castle Quarter, with removing an unsightly piece of vacant land in this prominent location, and would provide job opportunities both during construction and operation of the building. Further, the site is an allocated housing site within the local plan, such that the residential development of this site is acceptable in principle, whilst it is also noted that an earlier permission for 349 flats on this site has been implemented and which constitutes a realistic fallback position. The mix of units is considered to be acceptable and is an improvement on a previous permission on the site. In terms of design, the application proposals have developed over time, responding to both officer advice at the pre-application stage and also responding to comments from an independent design review panel. The proposal has demonstrated that it provides a high-quality design solution, provides specific justification for the taller tower element, and accordingly is considered to have an acceptable impact on the townscape and character and appearance of the area. In relation to the impact on both designated and non-designated heritage assets, the report has identified that there is some harm to the town centre conservation area, but considers that the public benefits of the proposal outweigh this limited harm. Additionally, the report has demonstrated that the proposal would provide an excellent residential environment in terms of unit size and amenity space provision. It would not result in any significantly adverse impacts on neighbouring amenity, and that the transport issues associated with the proposal are acceptable. Finally, the report details that issues relating to biodiversity, climate change, regeneration and planning obligations have all been suitably addressed. Overall, it is considered that the development comprises a sustainable and high quality form of development, and on that basis, it is recommended that planning permission is granted subject to the conditions as set out in Appendix A and the completion of a Section 106 agreement as set out in the report. Thanks, Chairman.
Thanks, Clive. Just a reminder, those who cannot take part tonight, is Councillor Campbell, because you were not at the previous meeting, and Councillor Ali tonight. You're coming in late. Okay, you can, funny, but that are the rules. Okay, any questions? Any questions? This would do for further information around the safety issues associated with the proposal. So any questions, please? Questions first. Councillor Khurshid.
Thank you, Chair. In the 11 units, affordable housing, so they comprise of 1, 2 or 3 or just 1 bedroom? That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Through you, Chair. Through the legal agreement, we would ensure that all the affordable units on site would be family housing. So 2 bedroom, 4 person, or the 3 bed, 5 person units. So we wouldn't accept the 1 or the smaller 2 bed units.
Councillor Hussain? Okay. No further questions? Comments, please. Councillor Hussain.
Yeah. Can I just say that I think one of the reasons for the deferment was the fire escape and evacuation. And I think listening to the health and safety executive the other day, I still do have a concern in having just 1 staircase coming from this building. But, you know, that's not a planning issue, I've been told. But more of a building control. But if there are changes to legislation, then I would have a very strong view, because most of our present buildings, all the multi-stories, do have 2 staircases on either end. So I would have this to be minuted that this is a serious concern to the members. And if the governments were to make a recommendation, then it must come back to this committee if there are changes in the legislation. With that, I would say that I would, you know, I mean, generosity of the developers in terms of affordable housing, 11 family houses and 211 is very generous with 380. Which to me is unbelievable, because such a development of 380 and a very small contribution in terms of affordable housing. But in terms of the recommendation, I'll go along with my concern in terms of the evacuation in terms of the safety.
Yeah, I think that there was a viability study done on affordable. They didn't have to provide any at all because there had been an independent viability study that said they didn't need to. This is out of the generosity of their hearts. Councillor Franks.
The first thing I want to say is thank you to the applicants for providing the additional information on the escape arrangements in the event of fire. It was very informative and I read it all very carefully indeed. I am well aware of what is and is not a planning consideration. I'm aware of what we should be taking into consideration when considering planning applications. But my life, 24 hours a day, is not governed by the Town and Country Planning Act. There are other considerations for me. I'm well aware, as a long-standing member of the Fire and Rescue Authority, of the stay put policy. And I support it in the right places, in suitable buildings, and it has been proved to work. I'm aware that the application before us complies with the building regulations. So did Grenfell Tower, complied with all of the building regulations, and that didn't save the lives of the 78 people who died. I find it very difficult to support a planning application for a high-rise residential development where there is only one staircase, which is the same staircase that would be used if it was necessary to evacuate the residents, the same staircase that would be used by the residents trying to get out and the fire service trying to get in. I can't vote for this.
Any further comments? Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair. We already debated long enough with this DEFA as well, with some concerns. I think it's not really fair to compare this site with the Grenfell, because all we know that the Grenfell happened because of the bad cladding, and the developers has assured us that the material they're going to use, which is non-filamentary, and this is not something that we should be considering and comparing with the Grenfell. So I support this recommendation. Thank you.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. It's totally unfair to actually put this together with Grenfell, which was a completely different issue. The fire spread from the cladding, which was found to be not compliant. The manufacturers had altered the paperwork to make sure it was compliant with current standards. And it's got sprinklers. There were no sprinklers in Grenfell, there were sprinklers in this development and the other one. Councillor Hussain?
Add on, in terms of the Grenfell, it was predominantly the combustible material that was used on those which spread the fire very quickly. In this side, that will not be the case, because we have, learned the lessons from that, and staying put in this case would be probably, and also the other concern was the car park, which is then HSC looked at it, and that is now been removed, that danger. So taken into account those two, and I mean, for us really, the expertise, some of us did serve time on the fire authority, but the expertise are health and safety executive, and their view was at this stage, unless there is changes to the legislation, which government is considering, at this stage, I would support it. And if there are changes, then this will come back to this committee.
Yeah, I mean, the information we got from the Health and Safety Executive from the briefing was the stay put policy, which I queried, and they said that would be acceptable in the event of a fire in the building, which would be contained. Also, the building regulations would be heavily involved in this if to see which, if it complies with current building regulations. And also Beds Fire and Rescue Service are okay with this. And where I live, I overlook the Parktown flats. And there've been 2 fires in there in the time that I've lived opposite. One in the 14th floor in Dorset Court and the other one in Kingston Court. And the Fire and Rescue Service were there within 5 minutes and tackled the blaze. There was no evacuation and no one was injured. Perhaps we're all lucky. Are there any further comments? There are no further comments, then the recommendation is for approval, subject to the satisfactory Section 106 agreement. I move so. Is that seconded? The vote, please, Matt.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Ahmed,
For.
Councillor Chowdhury,
For.
thank you. Councillor Franks,
Against.
thank you. Councillor M. Hussain,
For.
Councillor Kershid,
For.
and Councillor Taylor.
4.
That's 5 in favour, 1 against, Chair.
So that's carried. So planning permission has been granted, subject to. Thank you very much. We'll now go on to agenda item 11, page 139, Mount Grace Road. Can I just check that the objector, Kulvinder Biring, are you present? I think I've got you down twice. I've got a Mr. K.S. Biring. It's the same. You are the same person. You're on mute. Can you put your mic on, please?
Hello, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah,
Can you hear me? Yes, I am
Yeah.
one and the same person.
you are the same person. That's fine. I'll get the officer to present the report first, and then I'll bring you in as the objector, and you've got up to 5 minutes. Okay.
Thank you.
Nyla, please.
Good evening, Chair and members. Do the presentation as well. This application is subject to a written update summarising the comments received from the 2 additional representations received in response to the reconsultation carried out on this application. The application relates to the conversion of an existing dwelling house to a children's care home, Class C2, for a maximum number of 4 children aged between the ages of 8 to 17 years with behavioural and emotional needs. The proposal is seeking no external alterations to the building or any major internal changes to the layout. There would be a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5 staff operating within the care home. The application site, as shown on the location plan, is located on the corner of the junction of Mount Grace Road and Hitchin Road. It's a large extended property, which is surrounded by a mixture of detached and semi-detached dwellings in single-family occupation. The application, in terms of notifications, the original application was 14 neighbours were notified and the site notice displayed. 18 letters of objections were received. The summary of the comments are outlined in Appendix 3 of the report. Neighbours were then and objectors were then re-notified on an additional document provided by the applicant setting out the operation and management of the care home. There have been 3 letters of objection received on the re-notification. No objections raised by the technical consultees to the proposal. The key planning considerations are the principle of the development, the impact of the development on the character of the area, effect on the amenities of the adjoining occupiers, and parking. In terms of the principle of the development, there have been concerns raised by local residents that the principle of the development is unacceptable as it introduces a business use within the residential area. However, as discussed in paragraph 16 to 21 of the report, the property would still continue to be used as a residential accommodation that to all intents and purposes would operate as a single household with shared accommodation. The residential use of the building would therefore not be considered to materially change as a result of the proposed change in the use of the building, and therefore it's considered that the principle of the development is acceptable. With respect to the impact on the character of the area, again, concerns have been expressed by local residents that the increased activity associated with the staff and other carers coming to the site would lead to additional noise and disturbance that would have an adverse effect on the character of the area. However, as outlined in paragraphs 22 to 26 of the report, whilst the rotation of the staff would generate some activity, it would be more regularised comings and going to the site with just 2 shift handovers, 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. This would have less of an impact in terms of noise and disturbance than if the property were to be occupied by a large family, which would generate more impromptu comings and goings from family and friends. Therefore, it's considered that the proposal in terms of its impact on the character of the area would not be adverse. In relation to the impact on the amenities of the adjoining occupiers, again, these concerns have been raised by local residents that there would be an adverse effect in terms of additional noise, activity and antisocial behaviour. Whilst these concerns are noted, as discussed in paragraph 27 to 32 of the report, given the limited number of children that will be residing at the property, the controlled comings and goings of the staff and other health visitors, the supervision of the children by the staff means that the effect on the amenities of the adjoining occupiers in terms of noise, disturbance and antisocial behaviour would be limited and not materially harmful. The comings and goings from the care home would be typical of a single household and would not be more than those associated with a large family dwelling. With respect to the issue of parking and highway implications, again, concerns have been raised by the local residents that the proposal would have an adverse effect on the surrounding network and parking, as it would generate more parking demand on the streets. However, as set out in paragraph 33 to 34 of the report, the number of parking spaces, which in this case would be 4, is in excess of the amount that would be required for this type of use. Furthermore, the Highway Authority have raised no objection to the proposed scheme on parking or highway grounds. To conclude, the proposed use would be more akin to a single household rather than a business use, and therefore it is not considered to be unsympathetic or harmful to the residential character of the area or the amenities of the adjoining occupiers, and therefore a conditional approval is recommended. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Nara. Mr. Birring, you've got up to 5 minutes
Yes, Chair.
to give your objections.
Yeah.
And I'll indicate to you when a minute's up. So if you, whenever you start, your 5 minutes starts.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, let me make some corrections to the officer who just stated that 14 residents were, no, only 2 were consulted, myself and one behind. It's only through our process that others were consulted as well. There's no notification put up stating that this application going forward. Secondly, I'm only here by accident since my personal details were sent to the applicant's address, and it's only Monday that I realized this committee was in process. And I'm pretty sure that's a clear contravention of GDPR regulations 2018. Now, coming back, we number of residents at Mount Grace Rose are considering putting a complaint to Ombudsman as the consultation process absolutely farcical, absolutely farcical. I tried to put a notice up 2 days before when I realized what's going on, yet your web port was blocked for anybody making representation. Hence the reason why you didn't get any further, only 3 representations on the second consultation. But that's not a matter here to be discussed. We've done through the proper means and channels. Coming back to the objection. Firstly, the main objections are that premises are located in a prime residential area occupied by mainly elderly people who've been here most of their life. Yeah, and transferring a C3 to C2, it is a commercial business. In the application, it says not commercial, it is a commercial business run by a private company for profit. And the impact will have absolute degraded immunity to the local residents. Even your own local plan 2011-2031 states quite clearly a key issue facing the borough in terms of planning for new homes after 2031 is population growth, meaning that 17,800 new dwellings are needed. I can understand how you're going against your own policies. You're taking away a residential area, a residential dwelling, and making it into a commercial premises. It is a commercial operation or commercial process, not a residential state. Yep. Your own statement of 2024, which is that Luton will be a healthy, fair and sustainable town where everyone can thrive and no one has to live in poverty. We want to provide good quality accommodation for those with housing needs. I cannot understand, nor we cannot understand how you can then state that it's a residential premises when it's run by a private limited company, mainly for profit. The loss of dwelling to the area, a lack of other businesses in this region, and the detrimental effects of a 24/7 business operation on neighbouring community, parking, safety and quality of life to myself and neighbours who have been here a long, long time due to increased noise levels, traffic movement, disturbance, pedestrian movements, antisocial behaviour shown by vulnerable children, will be detrimental to our community. I have been the head of safeguarding for a large organisation, charity, for over 3 years. And I assure you, we have 680 members. And I've been to lots and lots of these so-called vulnerable residential areas. And I assure you, it does impact tremendously on the life of the people living very close to it. Okay. So if you do approve this, you're going against your own policies. The application is out of keeping, incompatible with the residential area and Luton's housing policy strategy and vision. I still cannot understand how you can take away a good accommodation for a large family, which is dire needs in Luton, and make it turn into a commercial premises. And nor can residents of Luton. Yeah. You say there's no increase in traffic or no in doing. Your own Department of Environmental Health quite clearly says dwelling is adversely impacted by high level road traffic noise from day 505 Hitchin Road.
1 minute, please.
Yeah.
What, 1 minute left?
Oh. Well, all
I didn't deliberately try and shut you up.
Yeah, I know, Dave. One of those things where you have 16 objections, and those 16 objections came in only because we, number 3 and number 1 across road, found out what's going on. The 16 objections came only after we told them. Yeah, we even put a letter up stating it. We were actually blocked the second time round on your web portal 2 days before we could make representation. It's been an absolutely farcical situation and farcical process, yeah? And the noise is going to be, you're talking about only 4. Under safeguarding rude, a child, 2 children of different gender can occupy 1 room up to the age of 10. After 10, 2 people of the same gender can live in that same room up to the age of 17, 18. That makes it 8 people, vulnerable children, can live in there, yeah?
So can you wind up now, please?
Well, I have no more time to say, so I can't say. I was told they would have 10 minutes, but I'm representing somebody else as well.
No,
Now
the rules are 5 minutes.
Yes, but I was told that because I'm representing somebody else, Councillor Taylor, that we're given 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
It's very, very little we can say to that. And if you're going to start mute me off, then mute me off. But you have all the objections there.
Thank you very much. Any questions by members to the objector? Councillor Say.
Can I just ask you, in terms of your objection is really, because it still stays that from what I read from the officer's report as a residential property. Is your objection is it because of the children, or is it because it's going to run for a profit?
Well, both. It's not just a question of profit. It is a residential area. It's a residential property, and you're trying to transfer it into a commercial properties. In the application, it says it's not commercial process. It is a commercial process, and is not in line with the residential area here. Secondly, you're talking about health and safety. That site, that particular residential building does not conform currently to health and safety regulations. If you look at the corridor, the top corridor, there's a minimum of 1 meter. That's a minimum. When you're talking about children getting out, you need at least one person a safeguard officer to take them out, and then where they're going to take them out of the main A505. It is totally inappropriate and a place of vulnerable children. Your own health and your own Environmental Protection Act says it is not conducive to the lives of children, vulnerable, especially vulnerable children who need constant care. The increase and the application, even the application, quite clearly says they haven't mentioned anything about hazardous waste. You're getting bleaches. You're going to have flammable aerosols. You're getting window cleaners. You're getting butane-based substances all stored there. They said no hazardous waste going there. I've been a hazardous waste a chemist for over 45 years and a health and safety officer for over 25 years, and I assure you, the application, the details on the application are incorrect.
Yeah, I think that you answered the question. Any further questions of the applicant? Thank you very much. Ask the applicant, which is Annika Reid, to come forward. We've got a special seat for you there and a microphone. Okay, and the same rules apply to you, up to 5 minutes to present your case. And then switch the microphone on, please, when you start to speak, and switch it off when you're finished.
Good evening, all. I'll jump straight into it. Our children and young people need us to care for them, and I mean really care for them, not only from a distance, but in person daily. What is transparent to me is that there's a problem within our community that needs to be addressed. So I'd like to take this moment to discuss it. I remember waiting to be 21 just so I could work with children. I ended up starting my career at the tender age of 25. Fast forward to now, and I never imagined that I could or would have to face people who already safeguard children within our local community as a profession, but do not want vulnerable children living next to them or in their locality. Do we not have a duty of care to these young people to make sure that they're safe and that they feel protected? We must do better as a community, and more importantly, as a team. We have had many children and young people in our community throughout the country that are in dire need of our help and attention. It's great that we have social departments within our boroughs that lead us. They do their absolute best with the task that they're given, but we still need to do our part. Through countless borough liaison meetings with social workers that have tried placing our young people within local areas but simply cannot, due to a national shortage of homes for them to live that foster continuity, provide stability, and ensure that they are safeguarded to the highest standard. According to Ofsted, in England, currently has 2,706 children's homes and over 400,000 children in social care, some of who have been displaced from family and friends, who have been an integral part of their lives, only to be placed in a foreign area to have to start all over again. We can help stem this issue by providing a stable environment within our local community upon your approval. I would like to address the point of insufficient family homes within the area and the proposal to change from a class C3 within the community to a C2. We are in fact aiming to give a home to 4 young vulnerable children within our community. Our young people need somewhere to live. In fact, they need somewhere within their local community. However, we cannot change the past, but we can learn from it and make a difference for the future. When I speak to my young people following a mishap, I always ask them, what have we learned from this situation? And more importantly, what would we do differently in hindsight? Now that we are fully aware of the situation upon us, for us not to act to use the resources that we have to combat this devastating issue would mean we simply are unconcerned. Some may question, what are the benefits of keeping our vulnerable children within our local community? And to answer that question boldly, we are giving them a second chance of a family, a second chance at becoming a positive part of our community, a second chance for them to stay amongst their peer groups that they have grown up with. Because after all, having to move away from their community can sometimes feel like they are being further punished. A common misconception is that children end up in social care for so many reasons, sometimes for reasons as extreme as parents passing away unexpectedly, or parents failing to carry out their role, providing a solid and safe foundation for their children. Pathology is very strong. Without intervention, it tends to repeat itself. As I sit here in this committee today, the decisions that are made will significantly change the lives of our vulnerable children.
1 minute left.
Our vulnerable children, for the better or the worse. I'm not here to deliver just a speech this evening. I'm here to ask my local community to help our vulnerable young people. Why are we waiting for our children to grow up, lacking positive direction, then punishing them for their misbehaviours, when we can instead raise them to be integral members of our local community and praise them for their contributions? With the support of all of you, we can teach them while they're young and teachable. This is a solution to our problem and a solution well within our reach. I've chosen to say enough is enough, and today you can too. So unless homes like these are granted approval, then the question I pose to you is, where do we really expect our vulnerable children to live, if not in our local community? Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions by members? Casa Hussain.
Can I ask you, which I asked the objector of the same, do you intend to change in terms of the residential nature of the house? The impression the objector is saying is that this will be a commercial thing, not a residential. I mean, from my understanding is that it was a large family living there. So are you changing that to anything else, running another business, or is it going to stay as a residential place?
So it will be residential for up to 4 children.
Thank you.
Nothing else will be changing.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've got 3 questions, but they're all around the same issue, so I'll roll them into one if you don't mind. I'm starting with the information we're given in the officer's report that the 2 overnight staff will be sleeping unless unless one of the children requires additional support, in which case one would be awake. So I think the first question is, who decides whether one of the overnight staff needs to be awake? The second question is, if they are both asleep, how do they know if one of the children leaves the house in the middle of the night? And the third question is your operating manual subject to approval by Ofsted or any other organisation?
Okay, so to your first question in regards to staff sleeping and who determines whether they're up. So when we take on young people, the first thing we do is we would have a meeting with social services, and depending on the needs of the child, all those things will be discussed and put into their care plan. When I done the operational management plan, I made sure to kind of like explain that it really is dependent on the children, which leads us into, I believe, part 2 of your question is, how would we know if a child gets up or happens to leave? So we would have door buzzers on the door, not for anything other than we can hear a door open and it alerts us, and that will be throughout the downstairs of the house, like on the front doors, they're external doors. But however, if it is a case of a young person needs a waking night staff, we are fully prepared to do so. It really does depend on who is placing with us at the time. And also, could you repeat part 3, please?
The third bit is your operating manual subject to approval by Ofsted or any other organisation?
Okay, so when Ofsted come out and do our registration, we go through everything with them. And if there's anything that they're not happy with, they let us know, and we're always open to make changes. Whatever's in the best interest of the children is what we're personally here for.
Thank you.
Councillor Kershid and then Councillor Campbell. These are just questions to the applicant.
Yes, thank you, Chair. My question to the applicant is, my understanding is that you are proposing to open a care home for the children. Is that correct? Is change of use into is for the care home?
For a residential children's home. Yes.
Children's home, yeah?
Yes.
So are you going to provide therapeutic therapies or?
So with this particular home, we're going for emotional and behavioural disorders, so children that need additional support. Therapies, depending on the needs of the children, that is something that we also explore, such as life coaches. We also have a panel of young people, maybe from 25 upwards as well, where we also do dinners with the young people, professional people that are doing very well in their own right, as well as, and to make that body up of people, it's also children that I've also fostered in the past that have gone on to open their own businesses, continued on to university when everything was stacked against them, and they wanted to come back and be a part and play a role in also showing other people you can change your life for the better.
Reason I asked that I'm quite familiar with all this stuff, and actually my sister is running this type of care homes, so that's why I was just wanted to confirm these things with you. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Campbell.
Yeah. Just one question and then I will make comments. How are you being funded? And by who?
I don't think that's a relevant question. It's not a planning issue. How is it being funded? It's not relevant to planning. Not relevant to planning. Next question. No comments to the applicant's questions only. Any comments you make them to the planning officer. Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question in regards to the in regards to the where the children will be coming either from locally from Luton, or you said that they'll either come from London, but you will prioritize any young people or children from Luton. Would you have any, I may say, objections if we put a condition in there to say that only from Luton, considering it's only 4 people and we do have a dire need of such services as you're providing within the Luton area?
So our first priority, as I said, would definitely be to Luton. It would be amazing if all children could be from Luton. I'm not opposed to that. However, with Ofsted, once we are granted approval, we offer our services to the wider community. However, I'm a local girl myself. I foster in Luton still to this day. And my priority, be assured, is to offer our services to Luton.
Thank you. Yeah, if you're looking at page 143, Councillor Ali, and para 16 in the report. No further question to the applicant? Thank you very much. Questions to the officer? Questions first, please. Any questions to the officer? Comments? Councillor Campbell, your comment.
Yes, Chair. The reason I asked that question is I think we need more places like this in Luton. I know as a fact we're sending children from this town far, far away, which the council is supporting at an exorbitant amount of money. Instead of we having local homes like what you're providing to help these youngsters. And I know as a fact that a child could cost £5,000 a week away from Luton Borough Council, and Luton is paying that money. And I think we need quite a few more of these places in Luton. Thank you.
Councillor Sain.
Can I say that, Chair, that for the last 20 or so years involved with the children's services as well as the families, one thing that have concerned me greatly is the number of children that go a very long distance. I'm dealing with two families now whose children are 3-hour journey to Doncaster and 3-hour back. It's absolutely ludicrous for parents to be traveling such a distance just to see their child, whom for one reason or the other is not living with them. And I feel passionately that we ought to be providing local facilities for our children. These are fellow Lutonian children. And sometimes children come from other authorities because those authorities also take our children. And for some reason, sometimes those children are probably better in many ways because of the difficulties, because of the reasons that they cannot be locally living. But in general, I would say that we ought to welcome these facilities in our own neighborhood rather than putting them so far away that they cannot be in touch with their real family. So I will be strongly supporting that because I think these children belongs to the local neighborhood where they can live and still keep in touch with their own families. Thank you, Chair.
And walking distance to the schools in the locality, the Butteridge Infants and the high school. Councillor Kershin.
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor Hussain said, I'm strongly in support of this change of use for children care home. The reason I'm in support of this facility that we need to integrate our vulnerable children, and the best place is our own neighborhood, and it's very vital for their growth, for their well-being. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Franks.
Let's deal with this local children issue. Of course, we would all agree that in the overwhelming majority of cases, it's far better for the children to be in a location where they can maintain contact with their families. That's better for the children and better for the families. But we have to recognise that there are, fortunately, very few cases where the welfare of the child is best served by them not being close to their family. We are fortunate indeed that those cases are very rare, but they do occur. And in that situation, it's quite reasonable for me that this facility would accept someone from further afield, in the same way that Luton, on those very, very rare occasions, has to send a child further afield. I just think putting a restriction on only Luton children would be a mistake.
Yeah, I think in paragraph 16, it's pretty open-ended. And I think that what we, before we get emotionally involved in this, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the children that count more than anything else. Any further comments? There being no further comments, then the recommendation is to approve. I'll move approval. Is that seconded? The vote, please, Matt.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Ahmed.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Ali.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Franks.
For.
Councillor Hussain. Councillor Kershid.
For.
Councillor Taylor.
For.
That's carried.
And that's unanimous. Planning permission has been granted, subject to whatever the conditions are. Okay, thank you very much. On to our next one now, which is item 10, which is 99 Ashcroft Road.
Me again, Chair.
Yeah, we've got the applicant. Oh, no. We've got the applicant. Are they?
They're in teams.
On Teams? Yeah. Okay, Nyla.
The proposal under this scheme is seeking to demolish an existing bungalow and replace it with a two 3-bedroom, 2-story dwellings with associated amenity space and parking. The scheme has been amended from the original submission to address some of the concerns raised by local residents. Both its scale and design have been amended. The application site is located on the junction of Ashcroft Road and Dahlia Close, as shown on the site location plan, which is a small cul-de-sac. It consisting of 4 bungalows. The surrounding area is a mixture of bungalows and 2-story dwellings. This is the existing. Going through the screens, but I don't know why it's not. Go back. This is the existing bungalow. This is the proposed site. Oops, sorry. This is the proposed site plan showing the 2 new houses. And these are the elevations of the new dwellings. The application, in terms of notification, 7 neighbours were notified and a site notice was displayed. All neighbours and objectors were then re-notified on the revised scheme. The initial scheme raised 5 representations, whereas the revised scheme only received 4 representations. The summary of the comments can be found in Appendix 3 of the report. The key material considerations are the principle of the development, design and impact on the character of the area, effect on the amenities of adjoining occupiers, parking. In terms of the principle of the development, this is considered acceptable as set out in paragraph 15 to 18 of the report, as it conforms to the objectives of policy LLP 15 in that it provides much needed 3-bedroom properties without leading to the loss of a recognised use or representing an over-intensive development of the site. In terms of the impact of the character of the area, as mentioned, the scheme has been amended with new design features, with the bay features being introduced to ensure that the scheme sits much better within the existing street scene. So as discussed in paragraph 19 to 20 of the report, given the diversity in the form, scale and design of the properties in this stretch of stretch of Ashcroft Road. The revised proposal is considered a sympathetic form of development that sits comfortably within the context of the existing built form and therefore does not harm the character and appearance of the surrounding area. With respect to the effect on the amenities of the adjoining occupiers, a number of the local residents have raised concerns regarding the impact of the development on their amenities in terms of overlooking and visual intrusion. However, as discussed in paragraph 21 to 26 of the report, owing to the reduction in the footprint of the dwellings with the removal of the first floor rear element, obscured glazing in the flank elevations, and the overall spatial distance between the properties, the revised scheme is not considered to materially harm the amenities of any of the adjoining occupiers in terms of loss of light, outlook, or overlooking. On the issue of parking, the revised scheme provides, as discussed in paragraph 32 to 34 of the report, the level of parking provided, which is 2 spaces for each dwelling, accords with the current adopted parking standards, and no concerns have been raised by the local highway authority in relation to the scheme. With respect to the living environment created for the future residents, as discussed in paragraph 27 to 28 of the scheme, the proposal creates an acceptable living environment for the future occupiers of the dwellings. In conclusion, the development provides much needed family housing without harming the character or the appearance of the surrounding areas or the amenities of the adjoining occupiers. And on that basis, the conditional approval is recommended. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Nyla. Have we got Paul Allen online?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you can hear us, we can hear you.
Okay.
So you've got up to 5 minutes. If you
yeah, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
And it starts when you start to speak. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Allen. I'm the agent for the application. The main purpose for me to be here this evening was to speak in response to any objections that were raised by any objectors speaking, but it doesn't appear that anyone has turned up to object in person. I suppose I just need to summarise, in addition to the officer's report, is that a great deal of care has gone into this proposal. It addresses a shortfall of 3-bedroom, good quality family homes that Luton needs, and any issue relating to the construction has been covered by conditions. So I suppose in summary, we meet all the planning policies. We make use of a site which wasn't allocated under the local plan, and we just urge the panel to support it. That's all I need to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The officer's report. Questions? Any questions to the applicant? Okay, the officer's report now. I've done it the wrong way around. It should have been the officer report first, then the applicant. Questions? Any questions to the planning officer? Any comments? No. The recommendation before you is to approve. I'll move approval. Is that seconded? Vote please, Matt.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Ahmed.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Ali.
For.
Councillor Campbell.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury.
For.
Councillor Franks.
For.
Councillor Hussain. Councillor Kershid.
For.
Councillor Taylor.
For.
That's carried, Chair.
Okay. No planning permission has been granted. We go on to the last one, which I think is 7 North Street. 152. Right. Oh yeah, Susanna. There is. I was looking for it.
Thank you.
I couldn't see her in the audience. You're up there, yeah. I see you now.
Thank you, Chair. There has been one update to the application in that paragraph 2 within the recommendation should include delegated authority to the head of planning regarding making amendments to the conditions and heads of terms if necessary. This application seeks full planning permission for the erection of a 3-storey building containing 15 2-bed flats after demolition of the existing building. Now working through the scheme with the first slide, this is the site location of the scheme. The application site is located on the northwest side of North Street. The next slide shows the proposed site plan. The proposed development is located outside the Hightown Conservation Area and is within close proximity to Luton Town Centre bus and railway links. The application site is located close to the junction with Old Bedford Road and is bordered by a church to the west, residential properties to the east and south, and a hall and residential to the north. On the next slide, it shows the street scene of the former lighting shop with living accommodation above. The site has been vacant for some time. The next slide shows the artist's impression within the street scene. And the last several slides show the proposed elevational details within the wider street scene. Moving to the assessment of the application, there is a significant requirement for additional housing within the borough. The site is located within a highly sustainable location. The proposed would seek to reuse a redundant site with high quality design building. As stated earlier, the site is currently vacant and offers potential for regeneration in the area due to its prominent location where modern development would be welcomed, whilst at the same time providing a valuable contribution towards local housing provision. The proposal comprises of a block of 15 apartments to a maximum height of 3 storeys, which would be of similar scale to the adjacent buildings. The proposed building in terms of scale and mass are considered acceptable with a green roof proposed. The same block form has been maintained on site with the use of Luton grey brick with contrasting light brick panels to visually break the elevations into sections, reflecting the rendered panels of the existing building. The development is well distanced from nearby properties, but where adjacent properties on Elgar Path, an additional daylight sunlight assessment has been undertaken to ensure the amenities of the adjacent properties are not adversely affected. From the assessment, all the windows were assessed at the adjacent 2 to 6 Elgar Path, comfortably passing the required BREEE criteria for all the required daylight sunlight metrics. With regards to the private amenity space of these properties, this too has been assessed, and the report concluded it will have minimum to no impact from the proposed development. It is also considered that no residential property would be materially affected by reasons of loss of light, loss of outlook, visual intrusion, loss of privacy, and noise. Moving on to highways. Whilst there is no opportunity for provision of on-site parking, it is considered that such provision would in any case be inappropriate and contrary to the Council's aims in order to address climate change and promote sustainable modes of transport. In terms of the potential for displaced parking associated with the development, no significant harm is anticipated. As with certain areas within the town centre and surrounding, waiting restrictions prevail throughout. The opportunity for nuisance parking is therefore extremely limited and readily dealt with through parking enforcement in those rare instances. Future occupiers would not be able to secure resident parking permits. In order that this position is secured, it would be considered that notice of there being no on-site parking, nor there being any opportunity for off-site parking, should be provided to any prospective occupiers and buyers within the marketing particulars of the development. It is recommended that this should be included with any accompanying Section 106 agreement. Contributions towards education affordable housing were initially requested. However, the applicant's financial viability appraisal has concluded that the development proposal is unable to support the provision of affordable and education contributions. Given this conclusion, the local authority requested an independent review of this appraisal, which has been undertaken by Chris White of White Land Strategies. This independent assessment has concluded that the scheme cannot meet all the demands from the local planning authority's policy requirements. It is therefore considered that the applicant's financial viability appraisal has been robustly tested and suitable compromise has been reached where contributions are to be provided towards sustainable transport, whilst also allowing the development to still come forward. For the above reasons and reasons set out in depth in the report, the application has been put forward for a recommendation of approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Franks.
Only one, thank you. I can't see the standard refuse management plan condition and would like to see that added, please. Apart from that, I'm quite comfortable.
Okay.
Is there an on-site bin store in the design?
Yes, there is. It's located to the rear of the site. It should be shown on the site plan.
And then on collection day, they put all the bins on the pavement?
Yes. Yeah, the bin store's located.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And in lots of cases that I can show you around the town, that's where the bins stay, on the pavement. That's why the officers some time ago developed a management plan for refuse as a condition. I'd like to see that condition included, please.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Any further questions? Any comments? Councillor Sain.
Just wanted to clarify that in terms of the no contribution to education, in light of the problem in that area of school places, I find it very strange that there is no contribution at all to education.
Delegated authority in the updated recommendation to make alterations, including on deleting conditions following committee resolution to grant permission, and to make minor alterations as to section 106. So I think that is covered. Just checking, Sonny. Yeah, that's covered. Any further questions? Any comments? The recommendation to approve?
With the refuse management condition, please.
Yes. I think that was noted, wasn't it? Susanna, that was noted, wasn't it? Refuse.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That's the part. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No further questions or comments, and the recommendation is to approve. Subject to minor changes to the recommendation. I'll move. Councillor Cameron. Okay. I thought you'd been very quiet tonight, Gilbert.
Well, thank you, Chair. My concern, not necessarily in this particular thing, but in general, we seem to be building a lot of high-rise flats, etc., right across the town. Kimpton Road, blah, blah, blah. And we haven't got enough doctors' surgeries, and we're putting a lot of strain on the sewer system due to this. And everybody keeps saying, oh, that's to do with Thames Water. But if we keep building all these massive places, it is putting a strain on the overall system and the health service, where people, just alone in Kimpton Road, we need extra doctors' surgeries around there because the amount of people that will be living around there. And we don't seem to take this on board. So we just keep giving planning permission for these high-rise without any consideration. Luton is very congested. We're talking about climate change, etc., etc. And if you look at the traffic in Luton, it is absolutely horrendous and it's causing pollution. And the more you build, the more people are going to have cars and the more problems we're going to have. Luton have problems with asthma because we live in a valley. And the more cars we have, because more people are moving in, more problems we're going to have. The hospitals are inundated with people at A&E because they can't get doctors to see them, so they go to A&E. And few of these ones you're given permit approval, you're looking at about 3,000 people could live in them. It's a lot of people. And I'm very concerned. I'm very, very concerned what we're doing to the town.
The report, it's only 15 two-bed flats. I wouldn't call that a large development. 3 stories. But yeah, I take your point, but I wouldn't have thought, yeah. Okay. The recommendation is approved. I'll move approval. Seconded. Vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Ahmed?
For.
Councillor Ali?
For.
Councillor Campbell? Councillor Chowdhury?
For.
Councillor Franks?
For.
Councillor Hussain? Councillor Kershid?
For.
And Councillor Taylor?
For.
That's carried, Chair.
That carried. Planning Commission is regarded subject to the amended recommendation. Now that's really the extent of the business. Thank you very much. Enjoy your Halloween and I'll see you in November.